Welcome to Being Humans Together. I'm Ian Christopher Wendt. Leave me alone. This is the curse we cast on ourselves. Our institutions, schools, digital technologies, fragmenting families, dwindling communities, and corporate and consumer culture all conspire to make us increasingly isolated and lonely. Do you feel it? I do. Loneliness, isolation, solitude. Solitary confinement is the greatest punishment we enforce in many of our societies. We did away with torture and most capital punishment, so now we make people sit alone in cages. But guess what? Many of us sit alone in well-appointed cages of our own making and of our own choosing. We buy our isolation in 4,000 square foot homes with smartphones and social media and an increasingly caustic civil society where people resist, riot, and shout no at each other all day long. Excommunication used to be the worst thing that could happen to you. Socrates chose execution over excommunication. Now we voluntarily abandon, avoid, and reject community and replace it with political identity and corporate consumerism. Many young people yearn for connection and intimacy. Many yearn for it and don't even know what they're missing or wanting. But they're anxious, depressed, and afraid, often rightly afraid, of our culture of cancellation, cyberbullying, no mercy, fake influencers, and an internet that is increasingly dead, populated by AI-filtered and regurgitated hallucinations. But it doesn't need to be this way. We can increase our real relationships and make our relationships more meaningful, more supportive, and more real. I remember how lonely I was as a child and teenager. I had a family, and as a teenager, I found a great group of friends, but I was often profoundly lonely, seeking romantic attraction and intimacy that I had no real understanding of. Why? Because my parents didn't love each other. We children all knew this. We would sit together while they argued and wonder about divorce. For those and other reasons, I wasn't able to truly believe love and intimacy were in my future because they were absent between my parents. From the time I was maybe 12 until my 20s, every time I found a pool of water, a well, a fountain, I always threw a coin in it and wished for the person who would love me. Every time. My parents had so many successes. They were each excellent parents in their own ways. They sacrificed so much time teaching, work, and nurturing to their children. I'm so grateful for my mom and my dad. Notwithstanding the many difficulties in their relationship, which I won't share with you, they were married for almost 40 years. They spent that time dedicating themselves to family and making a home for us. So it's hard for me to judge them and say they weren't successful. In what world is 40 years of marriage and raising a bunch of healthy, productive children not success? But nevertheless, from a very young age, I remember feeling a profound sense of solitude. Sadly, as much as I wanted to create the opposite of my parents' relationship for myself, in my early 20s, I rushed into a marriage with a woman with whom I almost perfectly recreated my parents' dysfunctional relationship. We were married for more than a decade until we divorced, the same year my parents divorced. In my 30s, I finally found the woman I'd been looking for since I was a kid. We've been married almost 17 years now. We travel back and forth across North America to connect with our blended family, our grown children, our parents, siblings, extended family, and friends. This story is far from unique, and it's probably too much information, but it is one of my most formative stories. Families and relationships are complicated, and they come in all shapes and sizes. We also have friendships. So why do we experience such social anxiety and loneliness? We're seldom truly alone for long, yet we often feel lonely. We have relationships, but we're dissatisfied with them. we consistently undervalue them. We do not do the work to maintain our relationships. We let them attenuate and dwindle. We prefer comfortable distance that robs the richness and power from shared relational experiences. Sometimes we push our people away. Leave me alone. Instead, we choose individualism, anonymity, solitude, and the isolation of profession, corporation, mechanical institutions, and success. We've discussed how we are interconnected with people around the world by the things we own, the media we consume, the food we eat, and the services we use. But those connections are no longer direct. They are no longer relationships. They are corporate and commercial, anonymous. We were raised and nurtured by women and men who sacrificed much time, energy, attention, and hopefully loving care to raising us as functional humans. But we've often separated ourselves from them. Maybe we hold on to the harm we experienced and forget the mountains of love and sacrifice they gave us. We have our relational circles of family, friendship, cooperation, and contacts. But do we value them? We abandon many relationships because they hurt us and we don't forgive. Because we're so spatially and socially mobile, we pursue success by leaving and joining institutions of education, corporations, and the state. We do not understand that institutionally contextual relationships are not long-lasting or meaningful. We connect with humans through all manner of media. Thousands of humans produce the videos, shows, games, clips, music, memes, stories, articles, news, and advertisements that we watch, listen to, and read constantly. We consume goods and services produced by myriad humans. Even in our world of mechanized manufacturing, thousands of humans produce our food, clothing, electronics, vehicles, homes, appliances, goods, and services. There was a time when we consumed all of these things through direct human relational experience. We knew our community members, artisans, farmers, smiths, weavers, laborers, entertainers, defenders, leaders. But increasingly, we consume goods, services, and media through corporate media and institutions, which attenuates our interhuman experiences. We sit in our homes, tapping on our phones, and waiting for Amazon to deliver our consumer goods to us. State and corporate institutional cultures capture us and convince us that communities and relations are secondary, restricting, binding, intrusive, unsafe, boring, useless, backward. Corporate institutions make us believe we should be happy as anonymous consumers. Consumer culture, political propaganda, and corporate advertising convince us that style, aesthetic, and consuming things bring us meaningful personal identity. Institutions shape our relationships and then divide us up and shuffle us around for their own institutional goals. And far too many people think this is absolutely appropriate, even the best way to live. So many people believe, truly believe, that children cannot be socialized without public school. What kinds of relationships and socialization do they learn in public school? Sit in your seat. Everyone has a bubble. Be quiet. Stay on task. Line up. Obey adult authority figures. Follow the rules. So many rules. College and career are the most important values. You are divided from your family members, your siblings, and other grades. You rarely speak to children who are more than a year older or younger than you are. Your parents are not even welcome on campus except to pick you up and drop you off or for a parent-teacher conference. Schools teach us that if you work hard, you'll advance institutionally from school to university to corporation. What they do not admit to you is that they are training you for cubicles in institutions that will care about you even less than your teachers did. That's just the institutional socialization. How do children and teenagers socialize one another? Wealth reigns supreme. The coolest kids have the nicest stuff. Do not trust adults. Lie to them. Cheat. Share new and innovative ways to cheat. Do not rat on your friends. The system is a machine that wants to control us, and we should resist and rebel whenever we can. Our peers teach us that status, wealth, pleasure, and power matter most. And you get those things by being popular, rich, and exclusionary, by being creatively and publicly performatively mean, by being promiscuous and unfaithful in relationships, dishonest, selfish. But from daycare to elementary school to middle school to high school to college and university, the real power is with the institutions. Those institutions undermine family relationships, and the friendships we make in those public school institutions do not last. But no, you want to respond. My friendships and social media mean so much to me. They're absolutely real. Well, they can be. They should be. But when you change schools, you will never see most of those people ever again. Fact check, true. I spent 13 years in public schools. I went to daycare. I went to, studied, and taught at public colleges and universities for years. I've experienced all of it. In my family, we have twins. They've been best friends since the cradle. They have more shared experience in common than most married couples. And every year that they went to school, we had to battle with the administrators to keep them in the same classroom. If you don't separate them, they won't properly socialize. They won't become fully individual. What utter nonsense. Why would you rob someone of the best relationship in their life to train them to be solitary drones? When you have twins, you meet lots of other twins. We know a lot of twins who have been divided up by institutional systems, who have separate friends, separate interests, separate classrooms, separate teachers, who really don't get along or even like each other. Why would they? They have completely different friend groups, completely different situations, completely different homework. They're separated by institutions. These institutions do that with you and your siblings, you and your parents, over and over. Institutional government isn't exactly torture, right? Mostly it's okay. The teachers try hard to teach important knowledge. Sometimes it's even exciting and fun. It feels necessary most of the time. And if our kids didn't spend 7 to 10 hours in school and daycare every day, how could both parents work to pay the bills and afford a week or two vacation in the summer? From daycare to school to college to corporation and state jobs, we march from institution to institution. That is how we are socialized. All the while, our family relationships and close friendships are separated and deprioritized in the name of socialization, individualism, and for the supremacy of the state and corporate institutions. But we can feel emptiness at the core of it. It feels like isolation, purposelessness, like living as a cog in an unnatural machine. The matrix has you. Wealth and technology also isolate us. Surprisingly and perniciously, social media often make our contacts cheap, dishonest, inauthentic, unsatisfying, competitive, rude, conflict-oriented. Wealth brings more and more space to be separate in, more individual technology and media to be isolated in. Endless time, energy, and labor devoted to success. Energy devoted to labor and institutional relations mediated by money. Increasingly, we are buying our own isolation. Wealth can lead directly to isolation, loneliness, and alienation. We buy homes in new housing developments with huge 3,000, 4,000 square foot plus homes with only 3 or 4 people living in them. Plenty of room to sit alone and text one another rather than have face-to-face communications in real life, while our children grow up on TikTok. Because we carry GPS devices with us almost all the time, we can precisely map our daily and habitual movements. Most people spend the majority of their time sitting alone on a couch, at a desk, or on a bed, staring at screens, often doom scrolling. This is true for people in modest apartments or homes, as well as for people in huge McMansions or starter castles. Unfortunately, rich families often have two high earning, very busy professional parents with heavy work demands. Their one or two children grow up in huge houses with spacious rooms where they sit alone. How many people text each other when the takeout or DoorDash delivery arrives? Then they carry a plate or bag of food back to their individual dens where they can eat alone while they watch their favorite media on their individual screens. Rich or middle class or working class or poor, this is a recipe for isolation and loneliness. We are all beguiled, seduced, hypnotized by the image of wealth and success. But do we see the cost? Corporations and success will take everything you are willing to give them. If you're willing to work 50 or 60 or 70 hours a week, they'll promote you and pay you more money. They'll take all your useful energy until you have neither time nor energy nor emotional space left for the people that you're sacrificing so much for. But at least you can pay for horseback riding lessons and year-round club sports and national competitions. And so the cycle continues. Buying the bigger house in the better neighborhood so your children can go to better schools and have a better chance at upper middle class success, with richer kids who all live in proud isolation that breeds selfishness, narcissism, and meaninglessness. So you stretch your finances to the limit, and both spouses work extra hours to afford the bigger house in the nicer neighborhood. You increase all the financial and professional stresses on your life, and you end up having less time for each other and for your children. This plays out among middle and working class families as well. Both parents go to work to earn extra money to pay for the special activities, travel, and vacations that you crave, to give your family, your children, the opportunities and experiences that the parents didn't have. But for both parents to work, the children need to go to daycare. They spend 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week under the care of strangers in separate rooms where they train the children not to be demanding, not to touch anyone else, not to fight, not to make noise. Daycare is institutionalization. And daycare is expensive. Expensive daycare eats up a huge portion of the second wage of the second parent. Sometimes it feels like you're working just to pay for daycare. And cheaper daycare is worse institutionalization. I know of what I speak. I have experienced and witnessed multiple daycare businesses from the inside through my family connections, both as children and as daycare workers. Meanwhile, the parents in working class families often cannot both have the same schedule. One works days, the other works the swing shift or nights, so the parents rarely see each other. They can't sleep at the same time. They juggle who will be home when, to get the kids ready in the morning, to handle dinner and bedtime in the evening. These are just the facts of life for many working class families. I'm not judging them. This creates isolation. The pursuit of success often comes at the cost of time, energy, and shared connection with the people we value most. We need to know what enough is. We need to balance our work and our pursuit of the money for opportunities and experiences against the time we spend together. We need to demonstrate to our families, to our children, that we value relationships as much or more than we value profession and success. Sitting together at dinner doesn't cost much. A habit or practice of cooking and eating and cleaning up dinner together doesn't cost extra. A habit of playing games together one night per week could even save you money. A habit of watching a family show together instead of separating to individual rooms doesn't cost anything. Balancing and limiting the number of activities, clubs, sports, and lessons that our kids have in order to preserve some time to rest and talk and share simple experiences like food and shared entertainment can pull you together and demonstrate that relationships are more valuable than success and wealth and individual pursuits. The value of those decisions will pay you back across decades and generations as your family relationships survive and perpetuate. We want to be close, to be understood, to be wanted, to be valued, to be loved, to be known. Try to do these things to replace loneliness with relational bonds. Know your people. Invest time and energy to resonate naturally with your people, especially nurturing, conversing face to face, touching, laughing, playing, cooperating and competing, celebrating, hospitality, eating and drinking together. Strive to make your connections more consciously human and interpersonal rather than technology-mediated, anonymous, commercial, or political. Treat everyone you meet with as much kindness and respect as you can. Try to make more of your contacts interpersonal. Get to know some of the people who produce your goods, services, and entertainment. Bring social media into real life. Invite people over to your home. Know what long-term friendship is, and don't treat friendships as replaceable or disposable. Be loyal and faithful to relations to develop trust, knowledge, and intimacy. Value shared relational knowledge. It's more than history. Relationships are who we are. Join, participate in, and build intergenerational communities with meaningful shared purpose. You are not alone. You are a human having a very human experience. Your feelings, hopes, desires, regrets, and experiences are common and shared among us. Being humans is something we do together. Value, identify, build, and cultivate relationships and relational resonance. Amen, amen. This is the way of being humans together.